All right, guys, welcome back to the 10th episode of 11 Bang Gang. So I brought back guest number 1 for the 10th episode. Welcome back, Jon Turner.
Thanks, man. Glad to be here again.
Yeah, dude. So I was wondering what I was going to intro with, and I was reading an article on Stars and Stripes earlier because I was just like, I'm just going to go to Stars and Stripes and be like, what can I talk about that has to do with the military? Apparently, the Navy is buying every Marine a new mattress.
Wow. I mean, I guess there could be worse things.
So apparently they're on this big kick where they're doing like, I guess the DOD or DOW, whatever they're calling it these days, they're trying to like make the living conditions better for the Marines or for all the service members. So apparently the Navy said the first thing they're going to do is buy new mattresses, and apparently they're going to work on barracks. But I'm like, dude, that is...
Oh, man.
I'm not saying it's a lost cause, because it maybe the fact that it gets any attention is good. But my question is like, okay, so but we need new buildings. I don't know how those barracks were, but I'm sure Pendleton was meh.
Yeah, dude, we stayed in some for a while. 81s was staying in a squad bay, like we got back from the MEU and we lived in Horno in the old school ass squad bay, dude, and absolutely no privacy, man. One of my seniors like walks in, I won't mention his name, but he like walks in to the center of the squad bay, man. And like, I'm a senior at this point, like we have boots, and this dude pisses on the floor in the center of the squad bay, and he is my senior PFC. And I'm like, what in the hell? And so you had to deal with all of your drunk seniors and try to have your own privacy and all that. Man, it was terrible. Hated it.
Man, that was after the MEU in Horno?
Yeah. We had a freaking squad bay, dude.
Dude, in Horno, that was where Fox Company was, right?
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, dude, yeah. I lived in new barracks over there, like brand new.
What?
Yeah.
You're fucking kidding me. So, 81s, man.
Yeah, did you go on the contingent?
No. I'm talking about right after the 11th MEU.
Right after the MEU. Okay.
Yeah, but right before I went to Echo. Yeah.
Okay, so when I was over there after the MEU, when the contingent left, I went to Fox Company for a while, and Fox Company had a brand new barracks. They had just built it. I was the first person to live in that room, like me and the other guy. They were super nice.
Son of a gun, man.
That's pretty good. I like that.
Yeah, that was when that was the period of time where I was in division schools right before I went to Echo, and that's when we moved back over to. Over by the PX.
Mateo,
thank you.
Yeah, Mateo.
Yeah. So.
Which is funny because now when we moved back to Mateo, when Echo went back to Echo, when they got back, we went back to a barracks that was like, decrepit. It was.
Yeah, that one by the motor pool. Yeah. Dude.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
But I kind of liked it over there because it was like the last barracks before the motor pool. It was like way away,
Yeah.
And it was a really far walk for the OOD, and that's kind of how I got away with shooting ground squirrels for so long.
Oh man, the OOD. Hey, by the way, speaking of Mateo, somebody asked me the other day, I was talking to 3-5 and they were like, do you remember the brawl between Echo Company and 3-5? Do you remember that? Or was that before we got there?
That was literally right before we got there. That was kind of like summer of 08.
Yeah.
I think like the summer before we got there. We got there in November.
Okay.
So do you know the singer Tyler Satterfield? Tyler J?
No.
Yeah, he goes by Tyler J on Spotify, but he's a Marine from Mateo, and he used to play on that basketball court, and he was there at the brawl.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, at least the rumor has it, but he's the dude who sings the EAS song.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know who that guy is.
Yeah. He recorded some stuff in Nashville. He's like legitimate,
Mhm.
all that kind of stuff. He's got some really good music too. More than just his funny YouTube videos. But
Yeah.
yeah, man, he's from Mateo as well. It's pretty cool.
Wow. Yeah, so there's a company on Facebook. I don't know if you ever seen them. They're called Goons Up.
Yeah.
And okay, so you know Goons Up. So I talked to Goons Up because he was interested in coming on the podcast. I'm trying to convince him. So if you're listening, guy, come on the podcast. Anyway, so he has a he has a t-shirt with a dumpster fire on it. It's like a dumpster and it's on fire and it says Mateo on it and it's like Mateo dumpster fire and I'm like, "Bro, I need to buy that shirt."
Cool. Yeah.
But yeah, he's got a cool website. But I asked him to come on the podcast, but he hadn't responded. But he went to Iraq like 3 times. He told me about it. So
Nice.
yeah,
I follow his Instagram. There's a lot of good stuff he posts.
Yeah, he posts a lot of machine gun stuff because he was an 0331. So that was his, that's what he did. So
Cool.
But anyway, all right. So, where did we, man, I don't know. Okay. So when we, when we talked last, by the way, there have been people that are trying to beat your episode downloads and they're not going to do it. You by far out of none have the most downloads of any other, episode in this podcast.
Well, I'm going to remain humble, and I'm just going to I'm going to think that it's just because it's the first episode, and not because I'm anybody special. But at the same time, I was in 2 companies and 2 for. So I mean, there is a possibility, but I don't think it's I don't think it's me, is what I'm saying.
I thought it was funny because this person keeps messaging me and he's like, "What I got?" And I had to go on there and look, and I'm like, "Okay, yeah." But anyway, so that brings me to a point right quick before we talk about anything else. So I've been asked by a couple of different people if, since I don't do ads on the podcast, what does it cost me? Some people have wanted to donate. So I'm going to say this here because I've waited a while before I said it. So I guess 10 episodes is enough. So if anybody wants to donate, the way I'm going to do this is it does cost me money every month to host this podcast. It costs me money and equipment. So here's what I'm going to do. First, I want to do something where it's like, if people want to donate, that's fine. I'll set up something. If you like whatever value you get out of it, if you listen to 10 episodes and you're like 10 episodes was worth $5, whatever, it doesn't matter. Like, I will continue to fund this myself. But if anybody does want to donate, here's what I want to do. If anybody knows how to make a challenge coin, or knows anybody that can do that, let me know. And let's see if somebody can come up with a cool design for the podcast and make like a challenge coin. So then what I want to do is if people donate value to the pod, then it's like once you reach a certain point, like let's say $50 or $100, I don't know, I'd have to check the prices and stuff. It's like, hey, once you hit that mark, then it's like, all right, I'll give you a challenge coin. And I think that's a cool thing to do. So it's like, if people do want to donate, cool. If you donate a certain amount, you can get something out of it, other than just donating to the podcast, I guess. So I thought that was a pretty good idea.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. I would buy merch too, like a 11 Bang Gang t-shirt and, all that kind of stuff, or I would do any of that. And you're talking to an artist, dude. I will help you. I will design a challenge coin or t-shirt or whatever you need, man. So
yeah, I just don't know how to. So if you want to do a design, that's cool. But for I need somebody who knows people that make challenge coins. I'm sure there's websites out there, but if anybody has a good deal on it or knows something or who does that, let me know. So
yeah, good idea.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So last time I wanted to ask you a couple questions about a couple things that you did in Afghanistan. One was you talked about Mama Perez and you were in first platoon?
Yes.
Okay. So y'all were where again?
We were where specifically? I'm at the end of the day during the story I told, or what do you mean?
Now, yeah. So we did the Triangle of Guilt. That was early in the deployment. When we went down south and did that major movement down south, I don't know did you listen to Eric's podcast?
Not all of it, no.
Okay.
I have very little time, but
okay.
I was so Mama Perez, the specific story I told, we were at that time, we were closest to the mountain, which would have been north.
Yeah.
Yeah, we started south in the city and we worked our way north throughout the day. And, that's how the day ended basically is our biggest kinetic fight was at the very northernmost point of the city. But I mean, it had been constant all day as well. But yeah, that very last compound before it hit wide open field and, then the mountain that we were, that was looming over us. That was where we, narrowly escaped death.
Was Shane in your platoon? I can't remember if he was first or third.
Oh man, I want to say he was first. I don't want to mess this up because I work with both first and third, so we all blend together. Oh.
So but you were first on that deployment. You were third, and you got moved to first when you got there. Okay.
Yes.
So do you his story? And I'm not trying to see if you remember different details, but I think it was him that was talking about that you almost missed the LZ when the birds were coming in when y'all left, or was that someone else that was telling me that?
So the LZ was actually not in Mama Carez. It was between Barang and Mama Carez, so off to the east. So we ended up, after that big ass fight, we all consolidated and waited for the cover of darkness, and we moved out to the east, like through this wide ass open field. And it was a pretty good movement. I want to say 2 clicks maybe. And it was like, if I recall right, it was like kind of muddy. And it was kind of a pain in the ass. And we were all exhausted from moving through that entire city all day. So then we got there when we were hanging out. And I remember the bird coming in. And what I didn't know about helicopters at the time is that they have that static electricity charge on the end of their rotor blades, from spinning so fast. And so it's like pitch black. And we're all like scared to death. Like, man, our helicopter is glowing blue. And we are going to get lit the hell up. And I remember getting onto the bird and I'm sitting there in my seat, and it's like the longest time of your life sitting there waiting for the bird to lift while guys are loading and everything. Cause you're like, man, there's nothing I can do but sit here. I mean, if we come under fire, I can't do shit. And a helicopter is basically a soda can with wires and a blade. Oh man, that's terrifying.
The one thing that I don't think that people really, unless you've been like what we've done, the normal person doesn't understand that the inside of one of those helicopters, like what you see in the movies when there's panels that are covering the inside, there are none of those. It's just exposed wires, and all the tubes and everything that's in the walls of those things is all exposed. I used to think that when we went on long flights that like my gear would like it was a stupid fear, would like push against something and break something and then we'd die.
Yeah, dude, it takes one like foaming at the mouth PFC to bring down your entire bird. Like, what does yellow wire do? Bam, we're dead.
I mean, what's his name? The guy who was recon told a great story, at the end of that. I think it was that second episode, but it might have been the first, talking about they were landing and they wanted them to land. He said it looked like Star Wars out there. And that's the thing, is like when you're in a helicopter, it's not like being in an MRAP. At least in an MRAP, it's bulletproof. When you're in a helicopter, you are a sitting duck.
Yeah.
I mean, no doubt about it.
Yeah, but you feel 10 times more badass,
It depends whether you're in the air or just sitting on the ground. But you make a good point about that static electricity. I didn't learn this until I left and went to the wing. It's more or less about static electricity than it is. So when the rotors are towards the ground and they're spinning on the ground, there's actually particulates that are in the air, and those blades have a metal front leading edge to them, and so when they're spinning around, that front leading edge is actually smacking pieces of dirt, and it's basically creating tiny sparks in electricity. So that's why it looks like that.
That is so cool.
Yeah, but it doesn't do it on the ground, but it looks super dope in NVGs though.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So where did y'all go? So y'all went down. So what I wanted to ask is, where was 1st Platoon when we did our operation to the south of Shergazi?
So we went, well, basically everything was south of Shergazi, but
Yeah.
there was the movement to contact that was all the way over to, let me see, the furthest south we went was Sultan Rabat,
Okay.
like 11 clicks. But we had that place, that was just south of Sangen, or north of Sangen, I'm sorry. What was it called? It'll come to me. Dang it. But there were a couple big movements that direction. And I think you're referring to the movement to contact where 3rd Platoon left Salam Bazaar and they moved over to that one like super eastern point. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh,
Like if
yeah.
I had a map of Sangen right now, north of Sangen is the town I'm talking about. It's along that wadi. It's along this exact wadi. And I can't remember the name of it, but it'll come to me.
Oh, that makes me want to pull a map up. Yeah, so the only reason I asked is because that second platoon was in a lot of stuff down there, and I didn't know if first platoon was really doing anything when they went, because they went down and like what Eric was talking about. He's like they cleared kind of like where Sus got blown up in that truck.
Mm-hmm.
All down there in that big wadi. I just didn't know what first platoon was doing at the time, so that's why I asked.
Dude, we cleared all the way south. We went right past Ugly Hill was Caraway.
Yeah,
and with like the graveyard and everything. Right after Caraway, the Cop, then Jews Gray. Jews Gray was where Ugly Hill was. Then Caraway. Then after Caraway, you had something, and then Salam Bazaar. So I mean, it was a good movement south to get all the way down there. And then that wadi had like it got steeper and steeper as you went south, where the wadi got deeper and deeper and deeper, and you ended up like having basically a mountain on one side of you, and then like 40-foot cliff that dropped down into the wadi from the town that was across the way. It was super cool, man. And I loved that wadi, but it was always full of IEDs.
Dude. So. Yeah. There was an Air Force. I don't know if you remember that Air Force truck that hit that wadi, and they killed everyone in the truck.
I know, man. I remember that.
Yeah. I remember that was the one where I was like, oh no, the MRAPs aren't even safe. Like nothing's safe.
Oh no.
Oh yeah. But I
think that was an 80-pounder that killed them.
I think so. I was told it was a 120, but it could have been it could have been 80. But it was definitely 80 or above for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
It was big.
Yeah. Did y'all hit any IEDs?
Oh God, yeah. Everybody did.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but what were some of y'all's? What y'all hit? Because I didn't I ain't got no stories about it.
Do you remember the picket line?
Yeah.
Dude, basically from the picket line on, I think the first IED was definitely the picket line. I don't remember the order of who hit them or whatever. Like that would be impossible to name. But I remember that's when. The picket line was when the truck in front of me got hit. Ladder hit one. I remember Ladder had his NVGs down and was in the gun, and I think he smacked his NVGs on the gun when all that went off and everything.
Oh,
but we got stranded on the way to Salam Bazaar because that picket line ran from the Cop to Salam Bazaar where 3rd Platoon originally started, and we were just running supplies out there all the time, but every time we'd run a supply line out there, somebody would hit something. And typically it was just like it would blow the passenger tire off, in like the front of the cab. And, which of course they're designed to do that. So everybody inside would be fine. We'd wait there for hours. Engineers would come out, the wrecker, all that kind of stuff. And then as time went on, it was just onesies and twosies. But I think most of our trucks got hit on the picket line, and I think we had one hit in the wadi. Maybe not. I can't remember. It's been so freaking long, and every one of our trucks got hit. So I mean, I don't.
Yeah.
I remember at the end of deployment, we had like no vehicles.
That's right. I was about to say, because I remember like we had no backup vehicles. We had blown them all up, and like regiment was pissed because they were like, "Why do you guys keep blowing vehicles up?" And we were like, "Bro, like bring us more." And then they left that one, and we stripped it completely to the bone. And regiment was pissed because that wasn't our truck. So the truck we stole a bunch of parts off of was regiment's truck, and so Flynn got in trouble for that, but he told that guy to kiss his ass because he was like, you leave us out here with no parts. What do you think you were going to do if you leave a truck here?
Are you kidding? I didn't even hear about that, dude.
Oh yeah. So there was a truck, one of those, those super long, like 100 vehicle convoys that would come by every once in a while.
Yeah.
So one of them hit an IED not far. Where were the dudes that were not Americans close by?
The Georgians. Yeah, they were just across from Sultan Rabat. So they were where we stopped in first. The Georgians were right there. I mean, we watched them in a firefight one day to the south where we were like sitting eating MREs watching the Georgians fight, dude. It was cool.
That's pretty tight.
Yeah, they were like hundreds of meters away, like not even clicks,
Wow. I don't remember that, but yeah, they hit an IED, and so somewhere near Shergazi, and so they were like, yeah, we're gonna leave this truck here. We'll come back and get it, and like I don't remember how long they said, but it was we left it alone for like a week, and then finally after a week, I remember somebody started talking about it, and Flynn was like, screw it, bro, to start taking parts off that bitch, and we took the doors off, dude. It was a frame. When they come back and got it, and they were pissed. We took tires off, everything. We took everything from that truck.
No way.
So, yeah,
I never heard a single thing about that. That's cool.
Yeah, we took seats out too.
This is what I love about like getting together with guys from deployment, dude, because even though we all were there is so much shit you have no idea goes on. And so when we get together in these hangouts or like a funeral or whenever we meet up together, dude, I always learn something new about deployment. And I'm like, wow, like there was shit, it's really neat.
It's crazy, man. Like every episode I've done on here, I've learned something new. I'm like, what? That happened?
Yeah.
Like, and then Shane talking about how he got in trouble with Lieutenant Bennett by talking shit to him when he was on post. Dude, that story cracked me up. Yeah. Like, I don't remember which episode. I don't remember his first or second one, but he was talking shit on Lieutenant Bennett, and he was like talking to the other guy on the post, and Lieutenant Bennett was standing right behind the post.
Oh my God. Dude, okay. So I'm glad you brought up LT. I love Lieutenant Bennett. It was a love-hate relationship when we first got him because one, like I was older than he was, which is what a lot of people in the civilian world don't understand is like when you get an LT, they are as new as you, they are, even though they're an officer, they're straight out of college and they don't know anything. They're a boot, like just like you.
Right.
So at the time, like when I met Lieutenant Bennett, I'm a corporal and I'm like, my dumb ass is feeling salty, on my one MU deployment, and, my division school training, how hard was I? So that, perspective. So anyway, I had a hard time accepting Lieutenant Bennett to go and, die in front of basically, I'm like, okay, I'm going to combat with this dude and he doesn't know anything. That's scary. And that's not anything personal on him at all. Like that's just how you feel about lieutenants in general, So when I got to Echo Company and met Bennett, I'm like, all right, let's see how this goes, blah, blah, blah. But I do want to say that he ended up being like a very, very good lieutenant, and I really respected him. But I have got an outstanding Lieutenant Bennett story for you, and that Lieutenant Kapansky actually loves this story. So I have to tell it on the podcast.
All right, shoot, man. Good.
Okay. So we were doing that movement to contact, where Captain Flynn at the time was literally like, all right, your whole mission is to find the enemy and kill him. That's it. That's your whole mission for this movement. And we're like, oh boy, like, it was a whole different dynamic when, you always had some bullshit reason, to go out and do a mission. But this was like the first time where they're like, just go out and find them. Like, we don't care about anything else right now. Just go out and find them. So we walked for forever to the south all through the night. It was super cold. And I remember the sun starts to come up and we're down near Sultan Rabat. This is before we had gone there. And we were about to hook and go east. I believe it was east. It could be west. Hang on, But anyway, doesn't matter for the listeners. So we were hooking, and we're like sitting in this creek, I guess you could call it. Basically like where the banks are, where it would be like really deep, and the banks are like 7 feet tall.
Yeah.
So we halt in this creek, and we're LT and Adame, his radio operator. LT is peeking up over the crest of this creek, and we're all down in cover, and we're about to move. So it all looks clear. The sun is just starting to come up. We're taking our NVGs, putting them up, taking them off, all that kind of stuff. And as this is happening, LT and Adame, they're talking on the radio, doing their thing, and LT starts to take a piss, and he's peeing into the bank, like against the creek, and his head is poking up above the creek, so he's visible and nobody else is. So some enemy dude takes a pot shot and fires. LT ducks and turns around while he's pissing. I am sitting below LT in the creek. So LT turns around real quick and he pisses in my direction, and like I'm like, oh shit, and like and completely turns around and everything, dick out, piss still going and everything, from like supposed sniper fire and everything. I'm like, oh, what the fuck, sir? Like whatever. So the best part is, that's not the funny part. The best part is I'm like, man, I think my LT pissed on me, like whatever, like a little bit on my boot and my leg, and so I'm like, oh, here we go. We respond to fire, and we start bounding, and we're doing our thing. And this is like 20 minutes later, maybe 30 minutes later. We are way the fuck far away. LT and I are behind this like little 3-foot wall. And I hope to God he remembers this, because I would love to talk to him about it again. But we're behind this little wall and everything. And in all this chaos and gunfire, he looks at me and goes, "Turner, did you see my dick?" and I'm yelling back at LT, and I go, "Yeah, I did." And like we go back to our fight, and it was just God. Like it was so random. But like funniest, it was one of the funniest things ever. Like in all that chaos, like that was what he was worried about. Like, did you see my dick?
You should have. Yeah, I know hindsight's 2020, but you should have been like, "Yeah, I barely."
Oh man, yeah, it would have been good. I missed an opportunity there.
Yeah, missed opportunity. Man, it's wild. Some of the my mom's listened to a couple episodes, which is funny. But her thing is, she was like, it's not my kind of podcast, but the one thing that she was blown away with was, she was like, your guys' ability to recall like events that happened so long ago. She was like, it's insane. She was like, your ability to recall these events in such great detail. And I was like, yeah, I mean, that's true. But I feel like I forgot half of the deployment. I mean, to be honest, God, I mean, there's a ton of things that I don't remember.
Well, dude, it's really interesting. I mean, I'd have to say that there are a lot of reasons we remember those places and things and events. And at the same time, there's minuscule stuff like, I don't know how I still remember some like lines of Pashto, that I can still say, or, different towns that we were in, or where on a map it is, or, that's the weird part to me, is like how ingrained in our bodies it is.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like those were the times of our lives where we were truly fucking living, man,
yeah.
And I don't want to go on the cliche, like little rant or tangent, but, it truly is like the time of my life that was the most horrifying, but also when I felt the most utilized and the most important that I've ever felt in my life, and the dudes that we were with, and whether good or bad, you don't like everybody, you have your vendettas and your hatreds of different people, or, whatever. And, but at the end of the day, like these are like the best dudes you'll ever know in your life, in your entire life. And, you're, pissing and shitting and sleeping with all these dudes, like sharing sleeping bags, with no warming layers, trying to stay warm, and like, all of the spaces that you share. And it's like a whole nother life, man. It's like not even, it's surreal, I guess you could say.
Oh, it's very surreal.
Yeah.
It's very surreal. And the funny thing is me and my wife talk about this. We talk about the fact that it's like, even with like, even in our marriage, right? So the time that it was just me and her, and I was going and doing this cool shit, and then I was coming home and surfing, and she would just be chilling on the beach. And then it's like now with kids and the craziness and just every day's bullshit, and it's like almost, it's two different lives, man. It's two different lives completely.
Yeah. And there's things that, dude, like, okay, this might be a bit graphic, but go with me. All right. I'm sure you'll agree. Okay. And I mean this in the best possible way. So, in my marriage, as of yesterday, I've been with my wife 10 years. Okay. As of yesterday. So my wife, I have never even seen poop, Nice. But like John Billiot and I have crap together in the open in a firefight because we both had VGE and we were shitting diarrhea behind a giant boulder in gear and hoping we don't die together with our pants down, and like that's an example right there of how close you are as dudes. I mean, you have no shame. You have no pride. It's like,
I mean, somebody asked me that one time. They were like, what do you do? Like, if you got to take a shit, like on an operation. And I remember specifically one time where we had the truck circled up. I don't remember where we were, but I was like, the guy on the 50 cal, I just took an ammo crate, put a wag bag in it, and I kind of walked like 20 feet away from the truck. And I was like, dude, if you let me get shot while I'm taking a shit, I swear to God. I was like, you better hope I die immediately because I'm coming for you, bro. But just like, I mean, there's no shame, dude. Like it's just, it's.
And it's funny the subject comes up because I just saw a Sean Ryan episode the other day where he was talking about how he took Imodium all the time before every op. So he wouldn't have to go. And he said he never went in a gunfight ever, and he's seen probably, 200 times the combat that we've ever seen.
Man.
And, I think I pooped twice in a gunfight, like it's, just from being sick, we all got that stomach bug like we do every deployment where we're pooping and throwing up at the same time. And it's, man, what a subject for me to podcast, but
did you, I wanted to ask you this, because Graves brought this up in his episode. Did you ever feel like he was talking about this in a specific gunfight or conflict? It wasn't really much of a gunfight, but he said that it was like main character syndrome. Like you get to a point where you're just like, if this was a movie, I'm the main character right now. Like you could film a movie about this specific moment and this would be badass. Do you ever feel that way?
Yeah, you get doped up,
Yeah.
It's that fine line between holy shit, I'm about to die and oh my God, this is exactly what I've been waiting for my entire life, all in one. And so you're on a dopamine cocktail, adrenaline, all this stuff where you are just surging and it's like you literally feel high. Your body, I remember my body, your heart is in your neck and it's pounding. Your fear level is above anything that you've ever felt in your life. However, your body's tingly, your vision is like different. I mean, everything, it's just so nuts. And your ability to hear certain people, at certain times where you wouldn't even pay attention to them typically. It's like, it's so weird. It is a high 110%.
Yeah. It's the chemical cocktail, people talk about it all the time. Oh, fight or flight, blah, blah, blah. But I'm here to tell you that is a legit it is a real thing. And it's incredible, man. Like, I mean, I don't know. I understand why people are adrenaline junkies after the military because it's like, you just, man, when you felt it, it's hard to unfeel that feeling.
Man, I'm a big safety Sally, you know, like I'm always like, you know, hey, make sure you're, you know, wearing your iPro, or, you know, like nowadays when I work with tools and stuff, you know, and, but like when I got out of the military, I immediately bought a motorcycle, and I remember doing, like, I had never ridden a bike before in my life, until I gotten out. So I buy this Harley, Street Bob, and I'm cruising down the highway at like 85. And I should be terrified, you know, like this is my first time on the highway and I'm doing 85. And I'm like, this doesn't give me the thrill I need, you know? And I mean, I've been skydiving, and dude, I'll tell you, anybody that would let me skydive for free, I would skydive from sun up to sundown. I would skydive with nods on. Dude, I love freaking skydiving. I've never felt a more euphoric feeling in my life than skydiving. That free fall. Oh my God. And that's exactly what it is, you know, is like that. This chute might not open. Let's fucking go, you know.
Why do it? You know, I want to do it. My problem is I wanted to do it, but I didn't. Me and my wife didn't do it before we had kids. So now I'm like, I can't do it until my kids are 18 because I can't leave my kid. You know what I'm saying? Just if a freak accident happens, I'm not like, you know, I didn't stay in the military for this reason. So I'm not going to leave my kids parentless because I went and wanted to be an adrenaline junkie.
I understand that. I do. You know, as a father of 4, you know, I think being a dad is like the best thing that, you know, there is possible. And probably my biggest fear is leaving my kids behind young. You know, yeah. I totally understand that. But, you know, I think one of the biggest reasons I'm doing this podcast is I want to have a record that I can leave behind for them one day, you know, of, you know, what I did. And it's like, I don't know anything about my grandfathers, you know, and I have so many veterans in my family. Mm. And, you know, I know one grandfather was in the Battle of the Bulge, and that is it. We know, I don't know any details, you know, and so it's like, man, I'm missing out on a whole piece of my family that I don't even know, and my children are going to feel the same. I've never written anything down, or, you know, I've only got a few pictures like printed off. I mean, you know, they're not going to go through my Facebook probably. I mean, who knows?
Facebook probably won't even be there. But yeah. I did have a couple questions about that. One, when you got back from Afghanistan, when did you get out? What year?
Oh, dude, I got out right away. We got back April 2012. I got out in May. Okay,
so I wanted to ask 2012. Okay, when you got out, why? Why did you get out?
I was married. I got married in June 2011. And to my now ex-wife, and no, we're still friends though. You know.
Okay,
So this is crazy. So we had gotten married, so I could get like, you know, double the pay for deployment and everything. And so like that was the whole. That was literally the reason. It was like a real quick like check in the box, like boom, you know, we'll work on us when I get back, you know, whatever. And, you know, as a young man, you know, it's where the Skrilla is, you know, so,
oh yeah,
you know, but I loved her, you know, it wasn't fake. So, but I got out immediately. I took terminal. I had obviously a month of terminal. So that's why I didn't fap out. I literally, we got back, we did the ball in April. Yeah. And then everybody immediately the day after the ball went on leave. And, you know, so my last night I ever saw anybody was basically Vegas.
Man.
So we got shit faced together. One of the best nights of my life was Vegas. Yeah,
that was a great night.
Walking around, dude, you'd be walking down like the strip and you'd see like a random medal laying on the ground. You know, like a Marine from somewhere in your unit is missing this fucking National Defense Medal. Like, you know, like just chilling out here in the street, and it's like, rock on, brother. You'd find the glove, you know, stuff like that. Cause we're just, imagine like 1,300 Marines in dress blues, medals clanking, you know, and we're all out in Vegas.
And we were the only unit there during that time. So, dude, I had so many people. I didn't pay for a drink on the strip.
No, it was awesome. Dude, we ended up at like this outdoor club with like with a DJ shooting all this confetti, and like the place is freaking thumping, and there's a poolside bar that's at the side of this like DJ booth. And so like I'm at we didn't even go into the casino, so we stayed by this like pool for like 3 hours that night, and I blacked out with like Jeff Wise and Ian Wiseman and all that. Like, dude, it was so fun. What a night.
What a night.
Oh, yes.
It's funny because I still have a framed photograph of me, Caleb McCarthy, and his wife, and my wife over there. It's right over there on the thing. And my kids go look at it, and they're like, you guys look so pretty. And I'm like, we did, boy. We looked fine back in the day.
Yeah, we did. We did.
We did. So you went home after that. So
yep.
we spent a lot of time on Afghanistan. So I wanted to talk this time. I wanted to hit a couple, unless you had some other stories from Afghanistan you wanted.
No, please, man. Please, yeah.
Okay, so one of the things that I've been talking about is, and you led right into it, which is awesome, is you talk about how we peaked. We peaked in Afghanistan, or we felt like we did. So the problem is we get back, we're not with the boys anymore. Now you're trying to start a life. You're stressed. You're trying to find a regular job. And so how did you feel during that time? Now, don't get me wrong. There's a honeymoon time because everybody gets out of the Marine Corps. They're like, fuck yeah, smoke this blunt, dude. Fuck yeah, I got my DD-214. But then there comes that time where that's going to wear off. And it takes anywhere from a month to 6 months, but it's going to happen. And so I guess my question is like, when that happened, how was that?
I will say that there was not that for me. I was never really on a high when I got out, because I walked into an immediate marriage with a child and now let me fill in a gap here. My ex-wife had a previous child. So my oldest daughter is not biologically mine. However, I've been her father since she was 6 months old. Basically, not to get into my ex-wife's life, but we had been high school sweethearts. We had broken up. She had this night with this guy, and it was like a one-time thing, and she ended up pregnant. And I hated her for it for like 2 years, but I hated her for it because I loved her, and I'm like, I eventually came around and was like, we started dating in the Marine Corps and again, and like talking and everything. So we had a prior relationship. It wasn't like, it didn't start long distance, but anyway, so I married her and everything. And I took her daughter in and just took her as my own. And she never even knew until she was in her teen years that I wasn't biologically hers. So, or she wasn't biologically mine, that is. So, we still have a good relationship. I love being her dad, blah, blah, blah. So it's cool. But I walked right into a new marriage with basically no money and, this daughter. And, you don't have a place to live. You don't have you don't really have anything to your name, so at least I didn't. So, I get out, and we lived with her parents for like 5 months in like an upstairs room, all of us, including my daughter. So I feel like immediately this white trash, poor like Vietnam veteran kind of person, dude, like you see, like Lieutenant Dan, where you're angry and dirty and like, just kind of like mad at the world, and you're fresh off deployment, by the way.
Oh yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Cause that's the kicker right there.
Yeah. And you don't know how to process any of your feelings anyway, on top of the life stress that you now have in lovely Ohio. I lived on the Ohio-Indiana border. So, it's about as, redneck as you could get. And
opposite of California too.
Oh yeah. And back home, nobody gives a living shit that you're a veteran. Nobody cares, like other than mom, mom's there like, oh my God, you're the best thing in the world. Like, thanks, mom.
Tell my boss that.
Yeah, dude. Like, you got to find a job and blah, blah, blah. And, I don't know if you remember at the time, but in middle 2012, the economy was like really bad. And we could not, like, I could not get hired, man. I dropped my application for like 3 months all over town, and I could not get hired. And I was like, I started like just like breaking down. I'm like, why can I not get hired? Like, I can do all this shit. I can call airstrikes. I can bubble up a mortar single handedly if I need to. Like I can lay in a gun. I can do all this stuff. I can fire a freaking 50 cal. I can take it apart. I can hump this 240 up. Like you don't even know who I am inside. I've got all this fucking fire. And nobody will give me the time of day. And so like that was fucking awful. You feel like, basically everybody in your life in the Marine Corps tells you you're the finest fighting force in the world. Right. You're a superhero. You're invincible. Women want you, blah, blah, blah. And then you get out and it is not like that at all. So you have to prove your worth as a civilian. And that's where the growth happens, where you realize, because the problem is they indoctrinate you at 18, So you go from this 18-year-old kid who doesn't know anything, and you're immediately told you're a fucking superhero. So then you get out and you're like, I'm a superhero. Pay attention to me. And nobody will. Nobody cares. Yeah. So, and that's what you have to learn. And so then it's like, okay, I'm going to have to actually bust my ass and become somebody. And that made me find a whole new drive in myself. And that is a massive struggle. And I think that's what some dudes really struggle with, is they never move on from the Marine Corps. And it's like, look at me, look at me, look at me. And then they're an absolute fuck up and they can't get their life together. I think.
So I guess I got a question here, because that brings up a good point, because you make a lot of good points there, and all of it is 100% true.
Yeah.
But the problem is, I seen something the other day. And the only reason I say this is because this stuck with me. And I remember, I don't read a lot of comments, but I read a comment on somebody else's podcast where they had a podcast where they kind of do what I do. And the guy was like, well, the problem is you are living in the past, and that's why you do this podcast. Now, I'm not going to go into my reasoning for doing this podcast. Y'all have heard me say it 1,000 times. I'm not going to relitigate that. But my point to you is, how do you ride the line between being proud of what you did, but also being like, okay, I peaked, but let's say I peaked, but now I'm going to peak again, but in a different way, because I've got to remake myself into the next iteration. So the question is what is the success to move away from that line and say, okay, let's work on the next iteration?
I would say being humble and realizing, like, you're not necessarily anybody special. It's not like we all went out there and won the Medal of Honor, and I will fully say, for any veterans and listeners out there, like we saw a fair amount of fights, close to almost every day. You were getting at least pot shots and, little from the hip stuff, However, I guarantee you, Iraq was worse, and, all of these other things. So it's, you got to admit that to yourself too. Like, somebody else in the Marine Corps has always seen more. Somebody is always better and tougher and blah, blah, blah. That's what you need to realize first. Number one. Number two, that doesn't necessarily get you through life. That doesn't make you a better dad. That doesn't make you a better listener. It doesn't make you a better husband. And these are the things that matter, that need to continue to carry you through life, your legacy. And you need to see the Marine Corps as a stepping stone, and kind of like a secret strength, and not as what defines you. So basically, I say all the time, whenever I talk about this kind of stuff to guys at work, if it wasn't for the Marine Corps, I would not be the leader I am today, or, the husband or the father. So I'm thankful for that. And I would never change, going into the Marine Corps. I'm absolutely happy that I did. Best decision I ever made, 100% hands down. However, it was dealing with the Marine Corps and the struggles of, deployment that I had when I got out, that loneliness and feeling like it was almost all a dream because, you're living such an opposite life where like there was a time on deployment where I got in, it was like halfway through. I kind of got into a weird zone where I stopped calling my mom and I got so like hyper focused on deployment. And it kind of got like scary because it was an internal conflict in me where I started obsessing over deployment and missions and not about going home. And it was really weird because it's a whole nother life, an absolutely whole nother side of the world in your heart and everything. So then immediately leaving that and going home, that is the fight right there, dude. That's worse than combat itself. And then on top of it, not having a job or a place to live. And, dude, talk about struggle. And I don't want to go into any of that, man. Like although I'm proud I moved through it, like those were years that I freaking hated. And, I was drinking a lot and like all that kind of stuff too. And, you're always looking for a crutch and, just something to like take the stress away. Cause there's never any time to breathe. It's like, okay, I'm fighting with my wife because we have a new relationship and we've never lived together. I don't know how to be a father to this, 1-year-old child, who's always freaking screaming and she won't eat her food. And then this, or a toddler, and then on top of that, I'm trying to get a job and, nobody cares that I'm a veteran. And do I pay, hey, babe, do you want to pay the water bill this month or do we pay the electric bill? Like, do we live without lights or water? Like, swear it, man, I live that. And there were times where I literally searched the couch cushions for change and I split like $1.13 with my wife to get gas because we both needed gas.
I remember it being like, yeah, if I have $1 in the checking account, I can overdraft the account. Now it'll take a couple of days. So like if it's a couple of days from getting paid, hopefully I don't get the overdraft fee. But man, like, yeah, that's life. And that's the thing that people forget is like, and then like you said, on top of the fact that like combat or even the military itself is always a culture of everything is fucking bullshit except for like 1% of the cool shit. Like, everyone watches, and I don't know if you've seen any of the latest Marine Corps commercials, but they look awesome. And I'm like, bro, y'all making me want to sign back up. Yeah. But the problem is like when you look at those commercials, you're like, bro, that was like 3% of the time, The rest of the time was just horrible bullshit.
Yes, man. And I don't know about you, but I'm a movie buff. Like I absolutely love movies. I love playing 7 Degrees to Kevin Bacon at work. I've been playing that literally this week. I love it. Played it a hell of a lot in the Marine Corps. And, we watch movies all deployment, in our downtime and when we travel and, all the flights and all that kind of stuff. So, in military guys, we watch a ton of film. And dude, like that's, growing up, I watch all these war movies, We Were Soldiers, Black Hawk Down, all the big hits from when we were growing up. And that makes you want to sign up. And you're like, oh yeah, like I'm going to go get into the shit just like these dudes and I'm going to get some and it's going to be crazy. And, oh my God, the amount of crap you got to go through to get there, dude. That's, oh man.
Dude, you want an interesting story. And I'm just going to talk about this as an aside because I thought this was interesting. So I met a guy on Facebook a while back who I'm trying to recruit new guests for the podcast always. Yeah. So it was like one of these random pages where they just post like deployment pictures from like, I don't know. But anyway, this guy was saying, yeah, like it was awesome. So he was in Mateo, and I think that's how I talked to him, or he was on the East Coast. I can't remember, but the point of the story is that his seniors were the last combat Marines in the battalion. Like we left Afghanistan after that. It was over. Like there was no more combat deployments. And so he missed it by like one deployment. And he said, yeah, dude. And he said he said it made him hate the Marine Corps. He said he still doesn't like the Marine Corps because he said when he left, he said his seniors, when they like rolled out for their EAS, they were like, hey, y'all are always be boots. Y'all are always be pieces of shit. because you're never going to go to combat. And he said that haunted him for years, dude.
Oh my God.
Yes. Yeah. Could you imagine, dude? Like, cause I always said, like, you know, the guys who did like 2 mews back to back and got out, that just had to have been a real kick in the dick. But at least you tried, you know, you served during wartime. But like for a guy who is literally like right on the edge, man, that's gotta suck.
I actually do feel very sorry for my seniors. Well, most of my seniors that didn't see deployment, or combat deployment like that, and 2 mews in a row, and because they hated the Marine Corps too, and their hatred of the Marine Corps as they were getting out affected us, and I still have like and I don't want to say a vendetta, but I have a lot of bad memories and just baggage with 81s because of my seniors and like who they were as people, because they were just so angry about not deploying to combat.
Yeah.
They, you know, like they really affected me at that age of, you know, making me believe of me being a piece of shit or a boob or, you know, whatever, like how they mess with me. And, you know, like it was just constant bullying because they were so mad and, you know, and I feel for them now, you know, like I'm kind of moving into that time of my life where I'm letting all that baggage go. And I'm like, man, I pity my seniors now, you know, I don't hate them.
Yeah.
Where
it's funny how we can look back more objectively, whereas then we couldn't look at it objectively because you're in the thick of it. And that's kind of what this guy was saying. He was like, see, back in the day, it was just hazing. And he was like, they hazed us more. But, you know, so he was basically like, he come to find out the guys that went on deployment didn't even really see any combat. So like they were so far at the end of Afghanistan, they really didn't see it, but because he either had a combat action ribbon or whatever. But the point is, you know, I kind of wanted him to come on and talk about it. Cause I'm like, dude, even though you didn't see any combat, like that's a really good conversation to have about like, there's a line between hazing and just fucking with your new guys. And I wholeheartedly believe that even to this day, because when I went to the wing, I had to separate that. And I had to call some guys out because when I went to the wing, dude, there were a few guys that were trying to like legit haze people. And I was like, nah, not here. No, because you can't give me a justification. And like, I remember some of the NCOs being like, oh dog, you soft. Like it had to have been hard when you were in the infantry. I was like, it was, but I was like, but that doesn't make it right. Just because you did it to somebody else doesn't mean, or you have some kind of built up anger doesn't mean that we can treat people like shit. Like that's a line I refuse to cross.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, dude, I know. And it's almost a losing battle anyway, because you're never, even though you're trying as hard as you can, you know, all your knowledge and you're putting your heart and soul into your, you know, PFT and like, you know, all of that kind of stuff. Like you're doing everything that you can do to impress your seniors and they're still fucking hating you for any reason, just because they're mad. That's an impossible battle, you know, and it really affects you as a person for a lot of years, at least a lot of people, you know, not everybody probably, but you know, it did me. And so like I had a lot of just haunting things that I carried around from things that my seniors who never saw combat had said to me, you know, and I'm coming off of a combat deployment and, you know, still carrying that shit for years. And, you know, like a lot of people I never forgave and, you know, all that kind of stuff. You know, like I had a person on ship who was just messing with me because we were on ship. He was angry and blah, blah, blah. And I'm pretty sure it was accidental, but it still had happened. You know, he hit me in the eyebrow and split my eyebrow with a door. And he like flung me into a door. And so then he grabs me up by my blouse and he tells me, like, as I have blood on my eyebrow, you know, he grabs me by my blouse and pulls me up to his face. And he goes, motherfucker, go into the mirror and look at your face. And he was like, I want you to think of me every fucking time, you know, like blah, blah, blah. And, dude, I carried that for years.
Wow.
Where I'm like, yeah, dude. And, people don't understand like that side of it. And, I'm like, I had mouthed off what got my eyebrow split was I was getting fucked with. And, you know, you're on ship, you're confined. This is when I was on the Rushmore. The Rushmore was tiny.
Yeah.
You know, we had a helo pad. That was it. So we're getting fucked with, you know, down in the berthing. We're all living on top of each other on 4 racks, you know, in one stack and everything. And I was like, he says something to me, and I was like, oh yeah, while you were fucking slaying bodies in Okie, you know?
Oh,
Yeah, dude. Yeah. And bro, he fucking slammed my ass into a fucking door.
Oh,
you know, so I deserved it a little bit, but I was at my breaking point. I couldn't take it anymore, dude. And, you know, you get to that point where you're like, where does the line start between boot and me being a man?
yeah.
You know, because there's certain things that can only go so far as a man. You know, and then you have the military bearing and the respect and the rank and all that other kind of stuff on the other side. So you have to figure out where you draw the line of, you know, I'm just going to do what they say because I'm in the United States military. But at the other side, you got to be like, I'm a fucking man first. Like, and they need to see me as a man, and hopefully they respect me because of that, you know? So it's hard.
Yeah. I mean, I think the one thing that we forget sometimes is like, well, okay, there's two things. One is men are fallible, right? Like we always forget that like men are fallible. Like that's just, we need to accept that. Number two is the other day I realized I am 35 today. And I think about how immature I act sometimes still. And I'm like, hold up, wait, if I would have stayed in, I would be at year 18. That means I would be like a gunny or a first sergeant right now. And that makes you look back and go, hold on, wait. That gunny or first sergeant was only like 35, 36. Yeah. And you're like, oh my God, we were all children. No wonder we, you know, like,
yes,
it's insane, dude, to realize how young everyone is.
I know, but we were so fucking grown. Think of what we could do. Think of what we could do at that time in our lives, dude. You know, I went to Mountain Communications, you know, like I could do all the greatest things. I could talk to pilots and talk them on to a gun run, you know, like I imagine that at 21 years old
and put accurate rounds on target.
At 22 years old, I was leading men into bullets, you know, where I'm thinking like I might have to write letters to their moms, or I might have to drag their bleeding body to a bird or whatever, dude, you know. I mean, like we were men then, you know, but also children. And the amount of things on your shoulders and the amount of things that you can do at that age, you know, we need to remind society that we are babying people too far, you know, for too many years.
We forget that like we're putting like the 18-year-old, 20, 21, 22, 23-year-olds, they're the ones who invade countries. It's not 30 years old. It's not 40-year-olds. It's not men. These are young men, very young men.
Yeah.
And that's insane, dude. And like you're saying, I mean, yeah, you're talking about a 22-year-old that can sit down with a radio and he can talk to a bird at 35,000 feet. Then he can put a JDAM on a target the size of a nickel from 30,000 feet. You know what I'm saying? That's insane level. And that pilot could be like 25 years old.
Yep.
You know?
You're exactly right. You know what the best feeling in the world is like doing a SEAD, you know, like where you're like marking with artillery or mortars for a pilot to come in and bomb, you know, and like it's like this crazy huge operation, and there's like 1 million units all linked into one mission, and it's so cool. It, you know, like some of the training we did was absolutely like Call of Duty style worst case scenario training, and the amount of fire support that all correlates into one, it is such a strength that we have as a military. And it's very impressive when you see it on a grand scale like that. And luckily for me, I was seeing it from OPs a lot of the time because, you know, I was either, you know, near the sniper's hide in my own, you know, position, or, you know, like with them, or, you know, we were up on a hilltop and, you know, I'm in my own like hasty OP with the FIST team, and I get to see the battle space.
Yeah.
And the things that we can do as 21-year-olds as 18-year-olds, you know, it's so freaking badass. And and that's another dichotomy is, you know, we carry that out of the military with us. You know, I can do anything.
Yeah.
And, you know, man, I'll make burgers, whatever, you know, I'll put the fries in, whatever, dude, you know, and nobody wants to give you the time of day on your application.
Yeah. Well,
So now how do you deal?
yeah, like that's one of the things that I think, and that's another thing that the problem is veterans get out and they get this point where they're like, well, I'll never be in that kind of shape again, or I'll never be that good again. And the reason is because they're like, I was better then. And what I had to do was years later, I had to remind myself, hold on, wait. If I was special operations or those dudes, like look at Delta Force, the average age of a guy on Delta Force is like 25 to 35, so like those guys are like the same age as me now and they're still kicking doors in. And it just goes to show that like when you get out, you can't just go, yeah, that was the peak. It's like you can still be that good. You just have to have discipline. And
Exactly.
I don't know if you like Jocko, but I'm a big Jocko fan. So like his thing is discipline. You have to have discipline in your life. And my life is not near as disciplined as it should be, but I'm working on it because I'm like, there's no reason for me to be just a complete slacker at this point.
Yeah.
Because it's just not healthy, and I want to be around for my kids. I don't want my kids because I don't have any grandparents. They're all dead. And so I don't want to be like that. I want to see my kids and I want to live a long life. But, one of those things was I've got to get over this I was better than attitude and be like, okay, I can be just as good now. I can be just as strong and fast. So that was something. So when you left and then you went through that, what was your upscale like? So everything's kind of shitty, but what was there like a certain point where you were like, no, I'm going to be better, or was it just over time?
Basically, I had to I quit drinking. That was a big thing. One, I didn't have the money to spend on booze, but also, dude, I had a nervous breakdown to my mom one night. And it was very sobering, literally. Have you ever been like really blacked out drunk and then something bad happens in front of you, like somebody has to go to the hospital or something like that, and then you sober up very fast?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had this nervous breakdown, and then I realized in the middle of my drunkenness that like, oh my God, you're saying too much to your mom. Like, you need to shut the fuck up. And I did. And it hurt me, I'm like, man, this is stuff that I kept from my mom. So basically from that point on, I'm like, I'm going to stop. I'm going to not quit drinking for forever. Like, where, I still drink occasionally, it's a couple times a year, like if we're singing karaoke at a party or whatever, like, I'll have a drink, just stuff like that. But, it's control, like being able to control yourself for one, and being able to deal with your mind as a sober human. And then basically what happened was, one, I got divorced. We had 7 very tough years together, and they weren't all bad. I have a lot of great memories with my ex-wife, and we're still friends to this day. We basically were like, listen, we will always be best friends, but we cannot be lovers anymore. Like we are too toxic for each other. We are too alike. And we both had the same exact mentality, and you have to find the opposite of you, not the same as you, and I married another me, basically. And it did not go well. We were both headstrong, and, we both wanted control. And it was difficult. So we stayed friends, and we just said, listen, the kids come first. Cause I had a daughter with her. And, so now I have 2 kids, and with, her at the time. And I'm like, all right, I want to be a good dad. We're not going to work out. So let's figure out how to do this civilly and whatever. And I actually went on a contract with Academy, to escape basically my divorce, my impending divorce, like the process was like started, and I was just like, fuck this. I'm just going to go contract. Like I need a break, because it was all bad. So then I like leave, dude. And I missed the period of time where my daughter, Harley, my second daughter, where she was, from like 6 months old until like a year and a half, almost 2 years, or a year to 2 years, like right in that time frame, and, where like they're learning words and they're learning all of these things, dude. And now for the first time. I missed that with my first daughter too, because I was deployed and like, training and stuff. So it wasn't until my third daughter with my current wife, Ivy, just 2 years ago, it wasn't until last year that I realized, oh my God,
Oh man.
I missed the best time in a father's life with my daughter, and that's like even harder, like to imagine, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. And so that helped me grow too. But basically my divorce was a big boost, and I was able to kind of, work on finding somebody that, one, I could be with, that would jive with me, and be somebody I could talk to. Number two, my current wife basically knows nothing about the military. She has no military ties to her, any grandfathers or any like that. Nobody in her family, except for, I think, for her grandfather who has passed away, who basically never talked about anything. We don't even know what he did. He is the only member of military in her family. So I don't talk to her about the Marine Corps. We don't get into that kind of stuff. That can be a curse, but it's mostly a blessing.
Yeah.
I kind of just put it away, and I focus. The way I deal with it, man, is how much art I do, and the carving and the knife making and the sculpting and the drawing and all of that stuff. That all that is, when I go into those benders of me doing a project, I'm thinking about deployment.
Yeah.
And all of my dudes that I miss and love very deeply, who I haven't seen in 15 years. And that's where it is, man. It's loneliness. And so when I'm doing these projects and I'm putting it out on Facebook, a lot of people don't know it or understand it, but anybody that's listening, like, when you look at these projects that I make, I'm telling you guys, like, I miss you. I love you, every one of my projects, because I'm thinking about you guys when I do them, because I'm having a hard time. And that's how I cope, is my project, my art, and it's in some of my art that I'm getting into now. It's starting to show in my art too. There's a lot of stuff I haven't released. There's a lot of stuff that I'm working on, or I'm redrawing, or I'm, whatever. And, it's really cool, but, it's very uplifting.
Yeah.
Every day gets a little bit better, as a person. You're just constantly gaining wisdom, and that just comes with getting older, living through some things, and you got to have these little triumphs, to build on, and keep stepping forward, man. And don't look back. That's the big thing, is just don't look over your shoulder anymore. You're not going that way, dude. Look forward. And,
I mean, there's a thing where you can be proud of it, and you can talk about it, and you can go down to the VFW or the American Legion, and you can have a drink with the old boomer World War II Vietnam vets every week or whatever, and that's fine. But like, it cannot drive it cannot affect your life's trajectory. And you just have to come to terms with it. It's like it already affected your life trajectory, but that time is over. Like, that rocket booster is out of fuel, dude. Like, it's time to go make yourself great. And it's funny because my oldest, every time I had to do a podcast, I'm like, okay, hey, I'm doing a podcast, so y'all need to stay in your room. Here's your tablets, which they don't hardly ever get. So I'm like, have fun. You get 2 hours. You can watch whatever, play whatever games. And it's funny because my oldest sometimes will be like, oh, are you going to talk to people about the war back in the day again? And nice. It's like, dude, I'm not ancient, bro. It wasn't that long ago. But then when you really look at the dates, you're like, oh, wow, that was a long time ago, But I agree with you, because she's like, well, when am I going to get to listen to it? And I'm like, when you're older, because we talk about things that I just don't need to hear now. But I do look forward to the days when I am older and one of them goats decides to sit down and listen to this thing and goes, wow, that was crazy.
Yeah.
I think that'll be cool. And that's the point, is like, we're just here documenting it, but it's also to tell other veterans they're stuck in that rut still. And they're like, I just don't, know. And I think one of the things I think you're probably good about this, but one of the things I tell people is, hey, get healthy, dude. Like, because there is nothing worse than being in bad health or in chronic pain, or like you said, even just drinking, because drinking makes you reminisce. But those things, like, combined, can be a death spiral, man. Like, if you're not taking care of yourself, it's hard to move on, because you just feel like you're stuck, and you just feel like you're paddling up river against the current. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%, dude. It's ultimately, it's on you, and that's something that is really hard for people to admit. Is your actions are your own, man. And that can be really hard to just stomach. And, ultimately, nobody's going to help you but you, and I mean that as in you saying, hey, I need help, I'm going to go seek assistance, or, something like that, or whatever, if you're that bad along. And, but basically for me, I had to find what worked for me. I believe there's not always one answer,
That's right.
What works for, these 10 people might not work for me. Personally, I talked to a therapist once. It wasn't for me. Just wasn't not my thing. Not that it's not for everybody else, like it. I'm totally cool with people seeing therapy and, all that kind of stuff. But what works for me works for me. And, I'm not putting a gun in my mouth now, so it's like, if I'm happy mentally where I'm at, then, I'm good. But
have there been any things that, like, I guess I want to ask, because I think I was still in the military at this time. I think it was 2014 when Musa Kala took back over by the Taliban.
Dude.
There were all these articles. I think it was 2014, 2016, sometime around in there. And I remember looking back, and like, I remember there were some wing guys that I was sitting there reading the article, and they were like, does it make you feel like shit? And I was like, yes and no, because it's like, I don't know, man. Like, it's just one of those hard things that when we look back at the whole mission today, like, if you want to talk about being depressed, like, if you look back at the whole mission today, it's like I said in that one episode, I don't know if you listened to the intro of it, but it good people died for the ground that we never kept. We didn't accomplish the mission. And the question is what was the mission? That's the better question. And
oh my God, yeah.
Yeah. But it's one of those things that I just have to say, we did it. I mean, we went and did our job. Like, regardless of how the whole thing turned out as a whole, that wasn't our responsibility. Our responsibility was the mission that we were given, and we accomplished that mission with flying colors. Yeah. And I will always be proud of every single Marine I served with in Afghanistan. But I mean, you got to face the truth is, like, yeah, we accomplished the mission, but it didn't last. And that is a real kick in the dick. And it didn't affect me to where it like sent me into a depression. But I remember a couple of days where I was just like, fuck, dude, Yeah, and the Afghan withdrawal in general as well, and all of that kind of stuff. It's really embarrassing, to kind of carry around, and just as a whole, I think the whole GWOT community kind of feels that way. We're all kind of angry, in a subtle way, carrying that around with us a little bit, and actually. The deployment or two deployments after us, Shergazi had a frontal assault on it. No shit, really?
Yeah. There were 2 Bronze Stars given at at the front post. Like, there was a frontal assault from the north towards the ECP, and like the 50 was lighting up, and like the 50 gunner on post 1 got a Bronze Star.
Dude, there was nothing out there but that one little
thing, that little house.
Yeah. What the hell?
Yeah, dude. Dude, look it up. Yeah.
Man.
So, and remember when we left Shergazi, it was like the safest. Like we had 11 clicks of security,
Yeah.
where we had to go and like literally dig up a fight because we were so safe around Shergazi. Like we had pushed everyone away. And then to think that the Taliban took it all back, dude, and they got Blackhawks too.
Yeah, they got everything, man. They got the armory, they got everything. They got trucks, and I don't know, man. It's one of those things where it's like, I guess we can finally say we know how Vietnam vets feel,
Yep.
And but the problem is we'll never get to go back and check it out, because I would go back. Like if they let me, like if it was safe, like if Afghanistan became a democracy, which it never will, I'd go back, dude. If it was like Dubai or one of those other like really good Gulf states, I'd like to kind of travel around and check the place out. I think it'd be cool.
Dude, I agree, man. I would love to go and, see Jordan and, I would love to see all of everything that we can't see, and, I would even go back to Shergazi in a heartbeat and, walk all the old trails and everything. And, so we were talking about my flight simulator, prior to the podcast and, how I'm real passionate about that. Well, Afghanistan, the Afghanistan map for Digital Combat Simulator, or DCS as it's known, it got released last year or earlier this year. So, and Iraq, they released Iraq a couple months ago. So I've been literally flying my flight simulator over our AO, and
how does it look?
Exactly like it was,
wow.
And that's how I reminisce, dude. I even built a mission of like Shergazi and the Hawadi and like all of that kind of stuff, dude, where like I'm flying in on like a Huey doing like little gun runs and shit, just messing around in Caraway. And yeah, it's super cool. But I got in there and I almost like cried. And I'm like flying over and I streamed it to Josh Suss and I was like, hey bro, check this out. Like that's where you got hit. And like, that's where Mike got hit. And Josh is like, holy shit, dude. Like, no way.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
That's one of those things that like, like did you watch that Warfare movie?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm kind of putting it off.
Yeah, I know. I think we talked about that. But yeah, that's one of those things where like, you're like, ooh, that's too close to home. Yeah, my daughter asked me, she asked me like where I was, and I zoomed in on the map. You could still barely see Shergazi. I think it's pretty much took down on Google Earth now. I think it's gone. Yeah. I think the position is really hard to see what the original. It doesn't look like the original, but anyway, like I showed it to her, and I was like, damn. I was like, we went here and here and here, and I was like showing her around, and she was like, it's just desert. I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, there's no trees, man. It's not like here. But yeah. So
they'll blur out sections of map and for obvious reasons and stuff like that. And it's pretty neat, but that's all I was getting at. I know Google Earth will mask things and
that's got to be crazy though to kind of fly around Afghanistan and be like, yeah, this was it, dude. And then you said that's not. So for the people that didn't hear us talking earlier, like when he said like flight simulator, you're talking about like a 3D Oculus flight simulator. So you're not just looking at a 2-dimensional screen. You're looking at like a 3-dimensional would that be 4-dimensional?
Well, I guess it is 4D because I'm sitting in a cockpit, with all of the switches and buttons that an F-18 would have. I have the full shebang.
Yeah.
So and I'm literally in like a seat. Stick everything. I have to climb into it. I don't just like slide my chair up into it. I climb into it. But then I have a VR headset on and I'm seeing a digital cockpit. And as I reach out in my digital cockpit with my real hand, I'm turning the real knob or I'm flipping the real switch. So I'm not seeing my real switches with my eyes, but I'm feeling them. And so it's really cool. Very, very immersive. And And then I've got like pedals with hydraulic dampening in them, so I get like real force feedback. So if I'm hitting the rudder, to make my tail move and to swing side to side. Basically, that's there's hydraulics to it, so I get pressure and air resistance. It's very, very realistic.
Man, that's pretty tight. When are you going for your legit pilot's license?
Well, the airport that's closest to me, I just started that process with the VA, and the airport closest to me is not a VA certified airport, but they're in 2026 they should be. So I sent it. They have like a college with them too, like for flight school. So I already have the stuff like ready to go for the VA paperwork, where I can take it to the school basically and say, hey, I need this information for the VA. I can give that to the VA, and then they'll give me my GI Bill to do that, which is what I'm thinking about using my GI Bill on. So
oh heck yeah, dude! Yeah, that's gonna be killer, bro.
Been doing let's see. So FedEx is the first person or the first place to hire me after the military. I was a part-time dock worker driving a forklift. Basically, I would just unload trucks and sort the packages and reload trucks.
Was it like a working party?
Essentially, but you drive a forklift all day, So I work for FedEx Freight, not FedEx Ground or Express or anything. So, I'm moving skids with forklifts. So it's imagine like the Indy 500 with like 45 forklifts on the dock all at once. And like the dock is a quarter mile long almost, it's huge. Man. And it's like you're not literally a quarter mile long, but pretty close. It's huge. So you're just driving from one trailer to another, driving and loading the trucks and sorting them for deliveries, and that's it. And so it's like kind of mind-numbing tasks. So I got that job right away, and it paid okay for the time, and it's, you can make I think now it's up to like $22 an hour for part-time work, like driving a forklift. And you don't have to have any prior experience. Like they teach you how to drive the forklift there. So, it's great. You just like move right into it. So we have a lot of high schoolers and stuff that are like freshly graduated that can come in and get work. And, but that's what I started with. And then, I took a hiatus and left to contract. I contracted because I couldn't leave Hellman in my head. I had to go back. So, I took a Hellman contract, and then I got out of that. Did concrete for 6 months, was a welder for a little while. Then I went back to FedEx because FedEx was like the only job that I never hated. And
really?
Yeah. Believe it or not. Dude, like it's a scavenger hunt. I literally, your job is to go to a certain truck. You have a computer system on your forklift. It tells you what truck to go in. You drive down to it. You go into that truck. You dig off a certain pro number on a certain skid. You find that skid. And then you run it down to the door that it tells you to, and you load it in a sequence. And so that truck might be going to this particular city in town, and, it's going north, and that truck over there is going east, and, blah, blah, blah. So you sort these things, and then you fill the truck up, you shut the door and close it out, and it goes.
So when my package gets lost at one of these sorting facilities, it's your fault.
No, I don't handle. I would only handle something like a couch or like a.
Oh, okay. So big freight. I got you.
Yeah, bulk orders. Stuff like that. So we ship like medical supplies and hospital beds. Like things like that. Big things. We ship ammunition to police departments and like all this kind of stuff. It's really cool.
So, do you enjoy your job?
Yeah. I'm a supervisor now. So, all in all, I think I'm on my 10 total years. So, including the time previous, my 2 years that I worked as a part-timer. So, yeah, man, it's a leadership job. My job now is I'm one of 5 people, that literally it's up to the 5 of us every day. We start with a giant list of all of our customers and all of our shipments for the day that are coming into us. And we have to, from that giant list, we have to figure out how to sort it down into the least amount of trucks as possible to save money, how to pack the trucks as full as possible. So you're playing a invisible Tetris essentially.
Wow.
And to be profitable. And you have to make all of the appointment times that the customers have set up for you without missing your other appointment times. So it's this big complex problem. And I get to do it personally in my area every day. So I have like a section of Greater Cincinnati, and that's what I'm responsible for. Every supervisor has their own section of, the area. And we route our trucks and our shipments to those areas in the best way possible, all by hand and all by mind. And it's really cool.
Man, dude, it's crazy how everyone's job, like everyone thinks it's cool. It's like,
yeah,
it's like chicken farming that I do now. It's like, okay, you got 350,000 chickens and people are just like, holy shit. And it's like, yeah, bro, you think when you go to Chick-fil-A and just roll up in the drive-thru that chicken was raised in somebody's backyard? It's like, nah, man, like there's just no way, to feed the majority of the country, but I'm just one small chicken farm in one small section of Georgia that has 136 chicken farms. So that's not even including how many houses. So, it's just crazy how but it's another thing too, that like, I remember when I first took this job, after I got out of the military, I just remember being like, God, this is so fucking stupid. Like, I just remember being like, dude, like 6 months ago, I was flying on a V-22 and this is just dumb. And it took me years to realize like, that was it, man. Like, you just gotta roll with it, man. And I don't know, like, it's one of those things that, and one of the things that helped me, and I don't think I've told this on the podcast, is I went to Hawaii. And when I went to Hawaii, somebody in my family had like what is it called when you have like not a hotel, but you have a membership with like I don't remember what it's called. Anyway, a timeshare. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. So it was a timeshare. And so I didn't have to pay for the room. So they were like, hey, if you can get you and your family to Hawaii, y'all can come with us. And I was like, sweet. So we did a layover in San Diego and I met up with a bunch of vets and we had like a bunch of us guys. Some dudes were still active duty. And I remember we had dinner or lunch or something. And I remember we all kind of sat down and we were talking about our jobs now that we were civilians. And everyone was like, does anybody actually like their job? And we all just kind of laughed and was like, no. And it just proved that like, there's no job that you're going to love. You're not going to get out of the military and be like, I love this job. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I love what I do now. Like, I could not imagine working in a corporate environment. Like, I have tons of free time. It's me and 3 other employees. It's me and all the chickens. And it's just, I set my own schedule. There are days where you're digging ditches. You got a PVC pipe that busts underground and you're digging 3 feet underneath it. And there's days that suck really bad. But for the majority of it, you're just like, you know what? Like, this is it. Like, this is what, this is normal life. And I think that's one of the things that we forget is it's like when you are doing everything we did in the military, it's like that's government sponsored. That's millions of dollars that created that environment for you to do those things. Like, that's not normal. Like you're not going to do that at FedEx. You're not going to do that on the farm. There's just none of that. It's like that was just a time in your life where you went and did some cool shit and it gave you a leg up in life. Like you're talking about, you may get to get your pilot's license on the GI Bill, and that's totally cool. And there's great benefits that come with it down the road. But like for the time being, you have to be normal again. And that's for some dudes, that just sucks.
Yeah, I know, man. It, yeah, you're exactly right.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, it's just one of those things that I think guys struggle with. And the problem is like, what do you tell them,
I think that's also part of growth too, at the exact age that we're at, like that, pre-40 age range, where it's like you're starting to move into your later years. You've got a little bit of wisdom and you realize like, all right, everybody hates their job. So, I need to suck it the fuck up. I need to find a way to make it what I like about, find a way to make it what I want, and then, discover what I like about it. What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What can I change about myself to make myself not fucking miserable every day? And I've actually literally just rotated into that this year. For the past 2 years, I have been like headstrong and like head to head with my boss, and I've given him a hell of a hard time. And we have not seen eye to eye. And then I've literally I've literally made a personal change in myself where I ended up getting into it with my best friend at work. We had a full out screaming at the top of our lungs in each other's faces thing, like at 1:30 in the morning when I got into work, dude. Like I'm like, okay, I need to back up. I'm 35 years old and I'm like ready to swing on my best friend, dude. You know, like there's something wrong, you know?
Yeah.
And I let the work get to me, and also on top of hating everything about that job. And I had to step back and realize, you know, this isn't a bad job. You're finding problems in all of the little things that are building up into a big problem. And then on top of it, you're not seeing eye to eye with your boss. And that's making it 10 times worse. And so I started getting to know my boss on a personal level and just having conversations with him that were not work related, just to find a bridge, you know? And this whole past year, I've made a big effort to change that about myself is, you know, like, because the problem is the military in me says, okay, you want these fucking numbers? Like, you want me to make profit? You want me to do this? Like, Roger that. I'm going to give that to you. You know, we're going to make those numbers. And so you go out there and, you're a hard charger, you bust your butt and you work alongside your guys and, lead from the front and do all that kind of stuff. Like, I like working with the part-timers, and helping them out on the dock and teaching them. And I love to teach new hires and all that good stuff, molding these people. However, those employees, you got your 90 and your 10, the 10% of the employees that are just unmoldable, working for a corporate company like that, you can't just throw them through a wall, so that is what teaches you how to lead. That's real leadership. Mm-hmm. That's not uniform code of military justice leadership where, like, you're going to do it. This is somebody who can look you in the eyes and say, fuck you, dude. And then you got to figure out how you as a leader are going to react to that. And you might not have backing from any other leadership at getting that employee out of that company. Yeah. So, how do you deal with that as a man, as a leader, all those kind of things. So that's one thing I've worked on real hard this year, man. We're always learning and we're always trying to get better. And, I will admit that's where I'm at in life right now. I've changed and I've talked to my boss on a whole different level this year. It's been good. We found some common ground. My best friend and I are good again, and we can work alongside each other and not rip our heads off. And, he actually is a fan of this podcast as well. But, yeah, man, every day's a new day, look at it that way.
Man, I'm telling you, I think it's one of those things where it's more or less not just about like, it's not just about like your ability to be, but the veteran thing is one thing, because I felt like sometimes, we could just say, hey, the reason is I'm a sergeant, but even in my job, sometimes my boss has us doing dumb shit. It's not dumb shit. It's just shit that no one wants to do. And like, sometimes I have to tell the other two employees, because I'm the manager, and it's like, look, I know we don't want to do this, but here's what it is. And the answer is, I don't write the checks. Like, I'm sorry, guys, but like, I don't. And so it's like, we got to do it because we just got to do it. And part of that does come from the military, is being like, cause we did dumb stuff. And like, a lot of times I don't know, I'm sure you had experience with this, where your squad leader's like, hey, this is what Staff Sergeant wants to do, and it's going to suck, but hey, suck it up and do it, guys. Cause there's no alternative. What is the alternative? Saying no? Like, there is no.
Correct. Yeah, it's I guess the overall arcing theme of this whole podcast, I would say, man, is being humble. If there's anything to take away from that, is don't have that main character syndrome. You need to figure out how to reintegrate with civilian life and not be an individual. And that's where I think veterans have an issue is, we are strong when we are together. We are the team. We feel like the team. We live and breathe that. But then we become the individual when we are alone as a civilian.
Right.
So, we always talk about, feeling alone and all that, and as we're all spread out from the Marine Corps buddies. So then that's when main character syndrome kicks in. And then, you're not necessarily acting differently or anything like that, but you have like a subconscious level about you that gives you this military drive, and this whole view on society and this whole view on everybody around you, and how, well, this dude's a civilian, so he's automatically lesser than me. And things like that, and it's subconscious. It's not like I'm walking around looking at people in Kroger going, you suck, you suck, you suck, it's subconscious, so I immediately feel that I'm better than you, on the surface. And, I've had to change that too. And, these are all things that you got to look inward and not blame everybody else around you.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the hardest things, is to just understand that, hey, guess what? You are a dirty civilian again. And so the way you view everyone else, that is you, dude. Like, no one's going to be like, oh, he's a Marine. Like, no one cares about your GWAT tags on your truck. No one cares about your DB plates, dude. Like, at the end of the day, man, like, you're a functioning member of society again. And that's what you have to get back to. And no matter like what that takes, like, unfortunately, the world's going to leave us behind, dude. Like, yeah, you can be stuck. But you could stay stuck. But guess what? The world's still spinning, and your daughter or your son is still growing up, and your wife is still wondering why you can't get your shit together. And it's like, yeah, at some point you've got to just be like, hey, I have to function in this environment, and this isn't what it used to be. And I think a lot of guys too are just, it's okay to be like, yeah, that was a great time. Like, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, I've got to move forward with this. Now, you said you quit drinking, for the most part. At this podcast, I think I'm like 6 out of 10, or maybe even 7 out of 10 of guys saying they quit drinking. So I think for those of you who are out there, they're like, yeah, I can temper it. That's a hard thing to do. Do you think we have an addictive personality?
I think everybody's different, it's hard to say that we as Marines all do collectively, I know I do personally. Yes. But I don't know that I could speak for everyone. Great example. I never tried a cigarette all through high school. I was a very good kid. I grew up in a Christian home, and, I was kind of like a late bloomer when it came into like being a bad kid. Right. I had like my first beer at like 16, and then my first cigarette, I was in the Marine Corps in 29 Palms, and like we were like lost in 29 Palms on like this fake night mission, and my squad leader like sits us down on this hilltop, and he's like, Turner, do you want a fucking cigarette? And I was like, I don't smoke, Lance Corporal. And he's like, I don't give a fuck. Do you want a cigarette? And I was like, yeah, sure. I just like out of complete like boredom, and like, I don't know why. Like, I don't know why I took it. But like the first supply run we did to Camp Wilson, I bought a fucking carton of cigarettes. Like, why? Like, why? Why did I do this to myself?
How long did you smoke after that? Do you still today?
Dude, I vape now because I can't live without it, man. Like I can't. I hate it. It's the hardest thing. Nicotine is one of the hardest drugs in your life to quit.
I tell people all the time that nicotine is one of the most addictive substances in the world. In sugar is probably the number one. Nicotine's probably the number 2. Like, I will admit that. Yeah. Dude. Yeah. God, bad habits, bro.
I will literally, if I lose my vape in bed, like I'll fall asleep with it, like on my chest, dude, and like roll around in bed, right? And I will literally wake my wife up and like pull the blankets off the fucking bed and be like, where's my vape? It's been like 6 hours since I've had a hit, And like, man, there's actually a children's book that she showed me on TikTok yesterday. There's a children's book that somebody wrote. It's called Where's My Fucking Vape? And and like as you flip through the pages, it's like, nope, my vape's not there. And she was like, I should buy this for you for Christmas. And I'm like, oh man. Because I'll leave it in my sock drawer and be like, where is it? And I'm like running around the house.
Yeah. So man, like it's so rough, dude.
Yeah, dude. I'll be like wood carving, and dude, I will literally be on my pistol range, and I will have it like in my mouth like a cigar, and I will do all my pistol drills with it in my mouth like a cigar. Like, dead serious. It's that bad, like that thing's everywhere with me. So
Oh my God. You know, it's so bad because I dipped a little bit in high school, but not really. And then so when I was in 29 Palms, we were on like a night, or I don't even know if it was 29 Palms. It was just going to the field. Like they were like, you can't smoke at night. And I had smoked in high school and a little bit in the Marine Corps. And then like, I was just like, oh, I'll just dip because it's like, if I can't smoke, I'll dip. And then I started dipping and it was like Copenhagen long cut for like 10 years after that,
yeah,
you know? And it's just insane because it's like, I don't know. It's just nicotine is incredibly hard to get rid of. God.
yeah, dude, I was that guy that would need nicotine so bad. We were on an op one time where I can't remember if it was me and Adame or who it was, but me and someone, we were, or someone and I were under a freaking poncho with a cigarette on an op in Afghanistan, like filling the poncho with smoke to where your eyes are on fire, and you're like, man, fuck, this cigarette's so good. This cigarette's so good. Like, oh yeah, like I've been waiting forever, and like LT's over there, like, and there's, of course, you can smell it from like a mile away, and we were, we would do anything to get our hits, and because I wasn't a dipper in the Marine Corps, I would every now and then if I had to, if like I had like a real strict LT with like the smoking lamp being out and all that. But when I was a welder, they would let us dip and everything at work. So I would I started buying Stoker's Wintergreen because I couldn't go out for cigarettes when I was a welder. We worked 10 hours a day and we were like behind all the time. It was just balls to the wall welding all the time. So, dude, I had like a freaking little mini barrel next to me and I had like a tub of Stoker's Wintergreen for $13, which is like 11 cans. And dude, it was great. I would throw a big old cheek in and I would weld, just go to town.
Man, I'm telling you, dude, it's insane. Like I remember one time we were on a night op and the guy that was on post next to me was like, yeah, we can't smoke. But then do you remember the flare? So the flare,
Yep.
Yeah, the flare had like a tube and you could take it apart.
Yep.
And so we were like he put like a cigarette in the tube and was like holding it up to his mouth. And I'm like, bro, first of all, no one, like the only person we got to worry about is the damn SOG. But the fact is like the SOG is going to tear our ass a new one because he's going to smell it. It doesn't even matter if that Taliban sees it. Who cares? Like, what are they going to do? Yeah. Shoot at us?
Well, they didn't mess with us at night most of the time. Like they were, obviously at a major disadvantage and didn't have night vision and all that, so they just did their thing. And they were usually putting IEDs in at night or getting dressed, while we were, moving around. And so we got real laxed at night. And that was the whole thing, is like, okay, well, nothing's going to freaking happen other than stepping on an IED. So, like I'm going to figure out my ways to get my fix, because at the night is 10 times longer in the Marine Corps than it is standard civilian life. The night flies by as a civilian.
It's funny. The only reason I interrupted here is because when the catch crews come and catch all the chickens, so like if I have 8 houses and they had to get caught, they may catch 6 houses in a night. Well, that process will start at about 4:30 in the afternoon, but it doesn't end till like 5 a.m. So I'll work that whole day from like 8. It's almost like, dude, I swear to God, it's like every 2 months I have to be on duty for 24 hours like I'm in the Marine Corps. So I'll start first thing in the morning at 8. I'll come in and I won't leave till almost 8 a.m. the next day. And I come home and crash for like 4 hours. And it's just, wow. It's like being on duty again. And so, yeah, like it's that thing where you're just like the middle of the night is like, it's like the most dick sucking hours of any time of the day. God.
Yeah, dude, the hours of night in boredom where you're forced to not have any entertainment or talking or anything. Dude, oh my God, they go so long.
Yeah. But, I do have one quick question. I wanted to get your opinion on this before we end this. Have you seen on Facebook all these, like, this is a new phenomenon. So there's like a lot of like first sergeants or like sergeant majors who are now like influencers on Facebook. Have you seen this? Yeah. No. Yeah, dude, like these are like sergeant majors or like first sergeants or people like that who have like tens of thousands of followers, and they like people ask them questions, and they'll do like live streams and be like, yeah, these are, and it's really weird. And I'm like, since when are we like doing this? I just thought it was a strange phenomenon. I don't know if you had seen any of that.
Well, one, I avoid social media like the plague.
Well,
I'm very much a loner in my own way. So even when we get together with like Marine Corps dudes, if like we're all hanging out for like once a year or something like that, I'll be like real into it for like 3 hours, and then like suddenly I want to be alone. Like it's really weird, and it's nothing personal against anyone. It just gets kind of heavy, I guess,
yeah.
And so I don't like, sometimes I go into these waves where I'm like, I avoid Facebook almost, where like I won't even look at my messenger. It's just kind of like I want to be left alone, and it's weird.
No. It's funny. I'm actually glad you said that. Like, so if anybody messages me and like I don't respond for like 2 days, this is exactly what happens to me. And it's detrimental
Yes.
for what I'm doing, because it's like I have to be on Facebook to kind of engage with certain things, because I'm trying to like find guests, or I'm trying to stay up to date on what's going on. And like then I'll have like 2 days where I'm just like nothing. I may get on X, I may look to check, see if I have messages, and sometimes I'll read messages and then not even respond. And like it'll be like 2 days later, I'll be like, okay, I'm ready now, and then I'll respond. But I think that one thing that we forget about today is like humans aren't designed to immediately respond. Like when someone sends you a message, that doesn't mean you need to respond immediately. Now, I will say this with a caveat, that if a veteran sends me a message and it's like, hey, I need some help, sure, I'll break whatever, I'm in. But it's almost like the older I get, or it's been this way for a long time, I want to say it's been this way since I got out, is like I just feel like I can only take so much of people, and then I'm like, I need to like just chill out for a while by myself.
Yeah, you need time for thinking and reflection, for sure, and you need to be able to process things. And that's one thing I struggle with, is like I kind of go on overload, and I don't know if I have ADD or ADHD or what it is, like why I have so many projects going at once, and, like all this different stuff. But, that's where I would rather be pouring my heart and soul, and like, like raising my kids and all that. Cause at the end of the day, like I basically have no time for me. I'm a supervisor for 9 hours a day, and, and I'm a leader there. And I have to work in a corporate environment, and then I go home to my wife, and I have to be, a husband, and I have to deal with the kids, and, the crazy stuff that my toddler or newborn is doing. And, then, my oldest daughter is 17 with a driver's license, and she, is doing, she needs her car worked on, or, we're driving somewhere, or she's got drama at school, and then my 12-year-old's doing her thing. And man, it's just crazy. So, at the end of the day, I'm just like, oh, okay, I definitely don't want to get into it about like fucking politics with this dude I haven't talked to in 20 years. It's something that doesn't necessarily directly affect me right now, this hour of the day. So I'm just going to put this off. And, we have all that stuff like, oh man, there's all these sleeper cells in the country. There's, all these immigrants, and, we're all going to die tomorrow, and, the sky is falling and the meteor's going to hit, and, all this other stuff. Like, what do we do and everything? And I'm like, hey, if I got to defend the homeland, like, okay, I'm here. But until that day comes, like, I can't do anything about it. I'm just going to be like, I'm moseying on, man. Like, I don't want to sit here and fucking talk about it every day. And it's reality, dude. Like, you have to be able to handle yourself as a man. You have to be able to handle your daily tasks and responsibilities, ultimately, first and foremost. And, put food on the table, and, be, shower and be a normal functioning person. So, that comes first. And so if Facebook and Instagram and those things are eating up your only free time, which is a massive issue with society right now, is people are using their free time to sit and watch and to not better themselves. And that's a big issue with me personally, against like society, is the whole TikTok phenomenon is such a wave. And I understand how addicting TikTok can be. It's quick bursts of different subjects, catered directly to me, bro. Like an PhD mind, that's catered directly to me. And that's why I still have never downloaded TikTok, because I want to. you know?
Yeah, yeah,
And everybody tells me like, bro, you need to make a TikTok and put your art up on there and everything. And I want to. However,
yeah,
I would rather pay a buddy to make my social media for me, and I'll make the shit, because I do not want to deal with social media. And that's kind of why I backed out of Facebook and all of my posting of all of my projects all the time is like, I did the Forged in Fire thing, and then I had like thousands of people that like, I'm now a part of this community, and everybody, I've got basically a group as big as the Marine Corps group of friends that I have. Now that I have that group of bladesmiths, and we're all linked in, and now they're all messaging me, and we're linking up and doing like smithing shows and things like that, and for the public, and it's chaos, and then people want knives, and dude, I was just like, fuck fame. Like I don't want to be famous. Like
yeah.
just I want to go back to making what I want to make, and you can buy what I make when it's done. Like I don't want to take custom orders anymore. I don't want you to design the Jackhawk 9000, and then like some dumb ass like wall hanger knife that's not going to function because you don't know anything about knives, and you won't let me I can't give my knife maker opinion because you want this dumbass knife, and that stuff gets frustrating. Like, dude, this isn't going to do what you want it to do. Like, you want this kind of blade, and no. Like, I want it to be 4 feet long, and it's going to, be my butter knife. Like, okay, dude.
Yeah, I think one of the things that people you make a good point is like I had TikTok and I deleted it, or excuse me, I didn't delete it. I still have it. It's on my I don't know if it's on my link tree, but I literally get on TikTok and then I put my shorts on there and I immediately get off. And the podcast is what keeps me on Facebook. But honestly, like I have noticed, and me and my wife have we talk about this sometimes, is like there's a crisis of meaning in this country, like where we are so inundated by social media and ads and ads. Like I said this the other day, and my therapist looked at me like I was crazy and then agreed with me after I said it, is ads are a psyop, dude. Like they are literally a computer algorithm that it knows what you've been looking at, and it's like, okay, give him this ad. Right.
Correct.
And they are everywhere. I mean, Facebook, dude, is not what it used to be. There's an ad like every other post. It's ridiculous.
I know.
And so I'm at the point where I'm like, people are caught up in drama on Facebook. They're caught up in drama on social media, and they have forgotten what it truly means to just walk outside, touch the grass, look at the stars, and say, you know what? There are things that are bigger than myself. And like I tell people all the time, you want to do yourself a favor, get off social media. If you want to listen to podcasts, fine. Like I still listen to podcasts all the time, but honestly, I mostly listen to them just because I either enjoy that particular person. Like I like Rogan because he talks to random people all the time. But then like sometimes I'll listen to some that update me with news, but I don't listen to just one single type of podcast. So I may listen to, like, even if I listen to a news or an opinion podcast, I may listen to the opposite opinion of them too. Honestly, only because it keeps me grounded. Like I don't watch the news because I'm like, the news is all opinion. It's not what it used to be. Like if you remember when we were kids, used to turn the news on and it was literally just news stories. Yeah, them days have long gone. And I'm like, everyone is hyping, and like you said, everybody's hyping themselves up about like, oh, this and that, and the country's falling apart. And I'm like, you guys cannot get tied into this. Like, vote. But other than that, dude, that shit's out of your control, man. Like, the fact that you are worrying yourself to death about that is a detriment to your own health. Like, period.
And the fact that you can't, get along with your fellow neighbor, is what really eats me alive. Is like my neighbor across the street from me, her American flag is hung upside down, and I want to sneak over every night and rip it the fuck off of her fucking porch, and I hate that bitch, but at the same time, I also like pity her, and I'm like, I'm trying really hard as a person to accept who she is. And I'm like, now I hate her for other reasons, like I'm very mean, angry lady, and like, lives alone and yells at cars and like, all this other stuff. And no, she's not old, she's just she's a mean woman.
Yeah.
But very political, very, one of those people. And, I said hi to her when I moved in for months and months, and she won't even look in my direction. She won't I wanted that neighbor in the country that was like, hey neighbor, lend me some sugar, and, I wanted that neighbor so bad. And so does my wife, I want somebody that I can go over and be like, hey bro, I'm cooking out. You want something?
Yeah.
You want to come over with me? You want to have some beer? Can I make you anything? I don't have that, and it's my one neighbor. That's all I have around me. And, the fact that we're polar opposites is really difficult. And I would just love to bridge that gap. And that you might have seen that post on Facebook I made a while back. At the end of the day, we're all fucking Americans. And it's ridiculous how everybody can't set that shit aside. And it's real easy to go, you can work with people and be in person face to face. And we can, all get along and talk about oh man, I was, hey dude, what'd you do this weekend? Oh, I played Dungeons and Dragons with my brother. Rad, man. That's cool. And you move on about your day. And they're a staunch Democrat,
Yeah.
But you had a perfectly fine conversation.
Right.
Perfectly fine. And, that's what matters. Yeah. That's exactly what matters. Personal relationships that, don't get into politics because neither one of you are in Congress. Neither one of you are doing anything other than outside of voting.
Yeah.
So guess what? Don't talk about it, man. I don't know. That's
you know what me and my wife have been saying for years. We've been saying the saying, and I don't know if I've ever said it on here, is what I tell people is don't let people steal your loosh, man. First of all, don't put yourself in the position for your loosh to get stolen. Nobody gives a, it's just nobody gives a shit you're a veteran. Nobody gives a shit who you voted for. I take that back. Some people do. But the fact is if you're the way I always compare it is if you judge somebody by the way they voted, then I'm assuming you judge them by the color of their skin too. And
correct.
If you do that, then what, dude? And I agree with you. You had a great statement. We're all Americans. And so at the end of the day, it's if you truly are somebody who cares about this country, you went and fought for this country, then you should accept that this country has people who don't like you or don't like your opinion. And that should be fine because America is the great experiment. And I think that's some of the things that we're forgetting today is that we've been through this, dude. We treated the Chinese miners on the West Coast like shit. We treated the Irish immigrants in the Northeast like shit. And it's this country has a long and very colored history of treating immigrants like crap. And so, but it's at the end of the day, we all kind of, the Marine Corps was the greatest experiment because we had people from every background, from every color and everything. And we all got along. And dude, we used to tell the most, we used to tell the most racist jokes to each other in the military. Yeah. But it's at the end of the day that the binding thing that bound us all together was the cult, right? The Marine Corps cult, right? And the thing that binds us together as Americans is the American cult. And, there's a lot of nuance there that you can say that people don't participate in the American experiment, blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, man, it's dude, you're not going to change that. And unless you plan on going to the nearest mall and picking out people that you don't like and taking violent action against them, then what, who cares, bro? You're not going to change anything and you're just going to make yourself look like an asshole. And I think that's one of the things that people get worked up. And it's bro, you're just working your cortisol levels up and you're going to die early from it. So good luck with that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly right. Be humble. Why does your opinion matter? Who you voted for. Basically, your opinion matters as much as the opinion of the bitch across the street. So, it literally, that's it. And you have to realize that. And there's worrying is the one thing that you can do that never produces fruit.
Yeah.
So, that's another thing too, is I'm a worrywart, if I see something on Facebook, school shooting and, we've been invaded by Pakistan and, there's a meteor headed for the earth and, there was a train derailment and all of your water is ruined. Okay. All that happened today. So I'll be dead by tomorrow. I better freak out. First and foremost, I'm gonna go make sure I tell everybody at work that we're all gonna die tomorrow, and then I'm gonna ask my best friends, like, "Hey, man, what are you doing when we all die tomorrow?" Like, like it becomes a rabbit hole, like nonstop with social media. And I've got plenty of friends that are like that, where I'm like, I can't fucking take you right now. Like, I just please step back. Like, I don't want to hear this shit right now. I moved to property for a reason. I'm in my corner of the world. I'm raising my children and I'm doing my art, and I don't want anything else. Like, that's it, dude. I don't want to discuss politics. Like, and if we're ever invaded and there's a full scale war and it's time to mount up, I'm there. I'm with the American people. But you know what? Until that day comes, I'm a fucking dad. And so are you, and so is everybody else. And that's what they need to put first. Raise your kids, teach them to be Americans too, to accept who they should, and to preach not Republican and Democrat, but preach America. That's what we need to get back to, dude, is America. And these motherfuckers that burn the flag, it doesn't piss me off that they're exercising free speech. It pisses me off that they don't see that they are America too. They are also on that fucking flag that they're burning. And that's what makes me mad. If you're going to be in the motherfucking country, learn how to get along with me, your enemy,
Yeah.
And that's all. And that's all I'm saying.
And at the end of the day, we're all Americans, and it's like you're here in that experiment and you're burning the experiment. So, and it is what it is, man. All right, dude. I think we're going to end it there. And I will see all y'all next week. And man, I appreciate you coming on, dude.
Dude, thanks for having me again. It's been great as always.